Hello Fantasy RP gamers, Menacer here, your favorite Mega Mecha pilot. In this video, we review how healing works in Feng Shui 2. We will also review how to give someone a boost and just what is cheesing it. In this video, we will also go over the wound point tracker, how to make up checks, and make mark of death checks. About healing. Usually, player characters begin each session with 0 wound points and full stats. A GM might choose to not allow this under special circumstances, such as if the previous session ended in a cliffhanger. Feng Shui 2 gives players a partial recovery option. You would decide to do a partial recovery before rolling initiative at the beginning of a fight. When you use the partial recovery option, you reduce your toughness by 1 and bring your wound point total down to 10, and regain half your spent fortune points, rounding up. If you are a food type, roll your neck from side to side, clench your fists, and make bone-cracking noises. Other hero types leave it to you to find suitable audio-visual equivalents. Toughness returns to normal at the beginning of the next session, or whenever your wound point total returns to 0. In a game session, a character can benefit from any number of healings during a fight, but only one healing in the period between one fight and the next. Where not otherwise specified, using sticks for in-combat healing is a 3-shot action. Using the medicine skill for in-combat healing is a 5-shot action. Also, when you use the medicine skill to heal someone during combat, including yourself, the next attack against you has a +2 bonus against you, and you can't dodge it. When you use the medicine skill to heal, it's just like any other skill check. You roll your positive and negative die, then add or subtract a swerve to your medicine skill total. This is how much of the person's wounds you heal. Like any other skill check, you can choose to spend a fortune point to roll a fortune dice and add that to the total. If your character goes down and later receives healing during the fight that brings her below 35 wound points, she can rejoin the combat, taking her next action 3 shots after receiving the healing, or just roll a new initiative if a new sequence starts before then. I did cover the wound points tracker, up checks, and marks of death in the video Feng Shui 2 example archetype Transformed Crab, but I'll go over them in more detail here. Whenever you take damage, you subtract your toughness from the damage received. For each point of damage left over, you keep track of it on the wound points tracker. Healing can happen, and more damage can happen, so the tracker is very handy. Should your character reach 25 wound points, you suffer a -1 impairment penalty to your attack checks, to your defense, and to all your skill checks. This penalty goes away should your wound points go below 25, and will instead increase to a -2 penalty if your character tracks 30 or more wound points. Your impairment penalty can't increase beyond -2 just by taking damage, but there are other game effects that can cause it to increase. Should your character accumulate 35 or more wound points, you can choose to go straight down, or you can make an up check to try and stay in the fight. To make an up check, you roll your positive and negative die, then add or subtract a swerve to your current toughness value. If your result is 5 or higher, you pass the up check and can continue fighting. You can choose to spend a fortune point to roll a fortune dice to increase your chance of success on the up check. If you do continue fighting, for as long as you have 35 or more wound points, you will need to make new up checks each time you take damage, if you want to keep trying to continue fighting. You can decide to go down. If your opponent is fighting to kill, every time you make an up check, your character gets a mark of death. Also, if your opponent is fighting to kill, you take an additional mark of death every time you spend a fortune point on an up check. If your character receives healing during the fight that brings them below 35 wound points, you get to clear any marks of death that were caused by up checks. At the end of the fight, your character needs to deal with any marks of death they have. You use your current toughness value to make a toughness check against a difficulty of 4. Increase the difficulty by 1 for each mark of death you have. Fortune dice are not permitted when making a death check. There are additional modifiers your GM can tell you about that will increase the difficulty of death checks to make failure more likely under certain circumstances. No matter how many marks of death you have, you only ever make one death check. If you pass the death check, all marks of death are now cleared. Your character is hurt, but in no danger of dying. She needs to spend some time in the hospital or under other intensive medical care before the next fight scene occurs. If you fail the death check, your character has enough time to gasp out a few final words, reviving from unconsciousness if necessary, and then expires. Death checks are intended to make the game more exciting and allow for dramatic scenes. Sometimes your character's death will be great, and sometimes you'll appear to be robbed of greatness. Character death should always be dramatic, though. Do your best to ham up your character death and make it memorable. Then, move on to your next character. Let's take a moment to go over how boosts work, just in case you might want to help make another player awesome every once in a while. In combat, on your turn, you can give another player a boost by spending 3 shots. When you do this, you can choose to give them either a +1 bonus to their next attack or a +3 bonus to their defense against the next attack coming their way, and to every other attack coming their way that occurs in that same shot. If you want, you can spend a fortune point when giving another player a boost to increase its power. Spending a fortune point, in addition to spending the 3 shots, will increase the bonus to their next attack to be +2 instead of +1, or will increase their defense to be +5 instead of +3. If you want to give another player a boost right now at the speed of an interrupt, the only way to do that is with a self-sacrificing boost. I did go over the self-sacrificing boost in the video Feng Shui 2 Example Archetype Supernatural Creature, but I'll go over it in more detail here. When you give someone a self-sacrificing boost, you spend 0 shots and immediately take 25 wound points. Then you describe what is happening that is causing you the 25 wound points, and your boosted ally describes how this is giving them a boost. By the way, when a source says it causes wound points, this is different from causing damage. You do not get to subtract your toughness from something giving you wound points. So, when you give someone a self-sacrificing boost, you are also giving yourself the usual -1 impairment penalty that goes along with the accumulation of 25 wound points. If you already have wound points when you give someone a self-sacrificing boost, you are adding the new 25 wound points on top of it, so you might be at a -2 impairment and might even have to make an up check. If you want, you can spend a fortune point to increase the power of the self-sacrificing boost you are giving, just like you can do with a 3-shot boost. You can also give another player a boost outside of combat by spending a fortune point and describing how you are helping. When spending a fortune point to give a boost in this way, your boosted ally gets +3 to the check they just made, or you can roll a dice and they will add the dice roll result to their check, your choice. To leave a fight while it's still in progress, take a 5-shot action and declare that you are cheesing it. If no one stops you before your next standard action, you get away. Attempting to stop someone who's cheesing it is a 3-shot action. If a foe attempts to stop a hero who is cheesing it, the hero makes a speed check with the foe's speed as a difficulty. On a failure, they've been stopped from escaping. If a hero is attempting to stop a foe who is cheesing it, do the same thing. Make a speed check with the foe's speed as a difficulty. On a success, they stop the foe from getting away. Once a fleeing character has eluded one pursuer, she has usually succeeded in getting away. No other pursuer can stop her unless they spend 1 fortune point. A character can attempt to cheese it only once per sequence. Special note, no one can cheese it from a chase sequence. Is there anything else you want to know about Feng Shui 2? Is there anything else you want me to cover or provide clarification on? Leave your comments below. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe.